So, me and my partner, who's 26 and I'm 27, were getting ready to get hitched soon. We've been planning this for a while now and everything was coming together perfectly. Invites were sent out, vendors were booked, and we even had our vows all set. All we could think about was the big day. But as the day approached, I started to have some doubts. Whenever I was at home, my partner would act all weird and anxious, which made me start to wonder. I tried talking to her about it, but she just kept brushing it off. Okay, so I was tripping and blamed it on pre-wedding nerves. I played it cool and acted like everything was fine. Then one day, I walked in the house and smelled a manly cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I casually mentioned it to her, thinking maybe she had a guy over or bought a new perfume that didn't smell good on her. She acted all surprised and acted like she didn't even smell it herself. She just brushed it off and said it was probably from someone with a strong scent she ran into while she was out. Hey, so I was out in public, but something just didn't feel right. My gut was telling me to investigate further, so here's what I did. I sneakily set up a camera on our bookshelf in the living room without her knowing. I played it cool, went to work the next day like nothing was up. When I got back home, we chatted about our day, wedding plans, and all that usual stuff. After she fell asleep, I checked the camera footage and turns out, I caught her making out with a close friend. Chilling with my mate in the living room, then heading to the bedroom. I didn't waste time watching the video, just grabbed what I needed, saved it to a drive, and started thinking about how to call her out and make her face the music for betraying my trust. I acted like I had no idea leading up to our wedding day, and by then it was too late to back out of everything. So, I went through with the plans on the big day. I told her I had a surprise planned, and when she was getting ready, I snuck in and handed her something. The DJ handed me a USB with the evidence on it, and I got ready with a smile on my face, knowing she was clueless about what was coming. I took pictures, greeted guests, and made sure I knew where our friend was sitting before it all went down. He didn't even look guilty. Finally, my fiancée walked down the aisle, and the priest asked if anyone objected to the marriage. No one said a word, not even our friend who was involved with my cheating fiancé. It was a tense moment. So we were all moving forward, and I thought I'd lighten the mood. I said, I do, and the guests laughed, probably thinking I was joking. But I was dead serious. I called our friend over, and he looked completely shocked. That's when I think my fiancée realized what was happening. She was silently begging me not to make a scene, but I signaled to the DJ to play the footage. I told her that she should be with our mutual friend because they seemed perfect for each other. I gave them my blessing and walked away. She started crying, saying she had just everyone got cold feet and all hell broke loose at the party. People were screaming accusations from every direction, some were getting seriously riled up. The priest was completely lost, my fiancée was crying, and our mutual friend vanished into the crowd. Obviously, we gave back the rings and I told her it was over. She and her family are pissed at me, saying there was a more civil way to handle things. But come on, tensions were high and that's just how it went down. I went off on them about my fiancé's wild child daughter. So, I told them they better pay me back for all the money I dropped on the wedding, or else I'd blast the video on my Facebook. My ex totally lost it when I said that, so hopefully they'll come through with the cash soon. That's the drama I'm dealing with right now. My ex's parents agreed to pay me back, even though they looked super stressed about it. I feel bad for them, honestly. Oh, and speaking of drama, back in November I left my 37-year-old ex-wife, Zed. Then in March, she finally got through to me after 3 years of her cold shouldering me, making me sleep on the couch, and saying she might be asexual and not into sex anymore. She suggested we open up our relationship for my sake, and mentioned she already talked to a friend about having a threesome. I was cool with it, but I had 3 rules: we could both say no to any bad partners, we had to use protection, and we had to be honest about everything. About a month later, Zed asked her. So, my wife asked me to take the kids to my parents' house for the weekend so she could have a friend from work over for some drinks and a movie. I brought up the issue we had with this friend, and she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about. She said she barely knew this friend, and at the time, she had me convinced that I needed antipsychotics against my doctor's advice. She made me believe I was schizophrenic, which made me doubt my own memory and judgment. During that time, I messaged this friend on Facebook, and she confirmed that my wife hadn't contacted her at all. So, I confronted my wife about it. So, I found out about it and she straight up said she never talked about anything with anyone, basically telling me to mind my own business. When I got back home from visiting my family, the living room reeked of sex like they had a crazy time on the couch and didn't even bother trying to hide it. I checked my outdoor security cameras and accidentally heard them taking a smoke break. I didn't want to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help it. I heard her saying things would be different if I wasn't around, and then they did some stuff outside on the porch. Can you believe it? My neighbor saw us having a late-night argument through her window. And then she had the audacity to ask me if I was asexual now. When I confronted her about it, she just brushed it off and insinuated that I needed more medication. It was so hurtful. After that, I started taking the kids out every weekend and watching them 3 times a week so she could go on dates. Our date nights became even more miserable. She only wanted to have sex once a week, but she still wouldn't sleep next to me. The whole situation was just heartbreaking and confusing. So, the next week she went and found a date on FetLife who actually heard her like she asked, leaving her all bruised up. It was so bad that she had to take a week off work and didn't even get off the couch. I was totally crushed, realizing our relationship was in trouble. I tried to find a couples therapist named T, but Zed refused to see her just because T happened to be black. Before settling on T, I made sure she could help me with my own problems and I started regular therapy with her when Zed backed out. Over the next few months, I really tried to be cool with the open relationship, even though I couldn't find anyone interested in me. Zed suggested it was because I was too old, fat, and unattractive. In an effort to understand her needs better and why I wasn't meeting them, I met and became friends with her regular partners. But during this time, I found out she wasn't using protection with any of them. There were like 6 or 7 other guys she was seeing by then, from what I could tell. Ironically, I was the only one she was sleeping with. In the open relationship, Zed was hooking up with 2 other guys regularly. She made me feel bad for every move I made in the open relationship, so I began hiding these interactions from her. In August, I got into a massive car wreck involving 5 cars, lost my new car, and suffered a bad concussion. This left me with a ton of debt, a monthly car payment of $600, and no car to show for it. I started working even more to try to make up for the financial loss, only taking 1 day off each month to hang out with a friend. So, I was dating this guy and his girl and would always end up getting wasted at their place. Meanwhile, I was also looking after our 3-year-old and my 11-year-old stepdaughter whenever Zed needed a break. It was tough, especially with the lockdown making me feel even more alone. And then, Zed found out I was having threesomes with her ex-boyfriend and his girl during our monthly hangouts. She freaked out, calling me a liar, a cheater, a deceiver. I didn't even know that was not allowed because she never gave me all the info about her open relationship, so I stopped hanging out with them hoping to fix things. She dumped that boyfriend right away, then brought home another guy. I didn't trust him and tried to say no, but Zed told me it wasn't my business and I had no say. C and I were friends in high school, and one night when we were around 19 or 20, he showed up at my parents' house with a busted nose. Man, his dad really gave him a beating and left him with a black eye. He said he was ditching our hometown for good. That night, I made a bold move and quit my job and dumped my girlfriend. We both hitchhiked to a big city, but after 2 weeks, he ditched me and left me stranded. He was over the whole homeless thing and just called his mom to buy him a bus ticket back home. I was stuck in the city and it took me almost a year to get off the streets. I had to do some shady stuff for some sketchy people just to survive. To stay alive and eat, I really hated hanging out with those sketchy people. Then one night, I saw something that made me realize I had to skip town. Luckily, I had saved up some cash by then, so I hightailed it out of there. When I got back home, C and I kept our distance for almost 20 years. Out of nowhere, Zed and C started dating and she couldn't stop talking about his package size and his drag queen skills. I tried to play it cool and even reconnected with C as friends. I let him get really close to me and he became a big part of my life. I think someone was messing with my hormones without me knowing, which caused me to have a gender identity crisis at 39. I felt completely lost. Then in October, C asked me to divorce C so she could have the baby they had been talking about. I confronted her about it, telling her he asked me to leave you, making it seem like that's what you wanted. I won't stick around if that's the case. I'm asking you to choose me over him and stop seeing him. Her response was like, how? Do you really think you can make me pick? Well, I made the decision for you. About a month later, I moved into an apartment with a buddy and kept in touch with my 3-year-old. She moved in with me right away. I paid $2,000 a month until Christmas to help out financially, and now I pay around $1,000 a month in support. I see my kid twice a week and she stays with me on Saturdays. Z is trying to get more through the court system. She wants more free time to act like an adult, but I don't understand why she thinks she deserves it. During Christmas, I had to avoid my kids because I felt like I was going to die before the new year. I didn't want them to think my sadness was because of them. Honestly, I feel really unattractive, and not being able to make new friends or find a partner is making it worse. I've tried all the dating apps, and being bisexual, I've tried them all, but nothing is working. Things aren't going well for me. It's messing with my head that someone like her can be loved by so many, while I can't even find one person to love me. It's really affecting my self-esteem. If I can't even get affection, love, and respect at 40, I'm starting to lose hope that I'll ever have it. What's the point of life at this age if I can't have that? Just to be clear, in case you're including anyone else in this email, I asked you about the daycares you looked into for our daughter, and you gave me a dirty look and ignored me. Stop giving me those vague answers like you're avoiding the question or something. I wasn't being rude when I asked, I just wanted a straight answer. I have the right to know what's going on in our daughter's life, so you need to communicate with me when I asked for details. I shouldn't have to piece everything together from what she tells me, especially since she's only 4. So don't try to twist things later on and make me out to be the bad guy. See you later. Hey, just a reminder that I'm the bad guy here. You can't just forget or lie to yourself about how our marriage fell apart. Let me jog your memory about what went down. You were the one who brought up the idea of an open marriage, and we set some ground rules. But then you decided that I couldn't have a say in who you were hooking up with while we were still married, even though that was part of the deal. And when I tried to exercise the same freedom, you flipped out on me. Plus, you didn't even follow the agreement by not using protection with other people while demanding that I stick to it. Just saying. You kept using me, and when I told you to stop messing around, you just ignored me. You never kept your word and always put your flings before our marriage. You made all the decisions except for the one to leave. That was on me. I had to end things because I couldn't handle getting hurt anymore. I begged you to stop seeing him, but it seems like you've forgotten. I know you're mad, but I still don't get why. I even told you that he wanted me to back off, but you didn't listen. I told you to focus on our marriage, but you didn't listen. Now don't act surprised that we are both unhappy with the outcome. I'm stuck feeling lonely most of the time, hearing from others that the only person I ever cared about is talking trash about me. It's a crappy situation to be in. I'm not the one being rude or selfish here. I won't put up with your tantrums just because you're not getting your way right away. If you want to avoid a confrontation, next time, just be straight with me about what's up with our kid when I ask, and cut the crap with trying to confuse me and change the whole story. So here's the deal, I'm a 30-year-old dude who's been engaged to my 34-year-old fiancée for about 4 years. We've been together for over a decade, and sure, we've had our fair share of good times and bad times like any other couple. But as far as I can tell, there's never been anything fishy going on. However, about 6 months ago, I started getting this gut feeling that something wasn't right with my partner. So, my friend started a new job. I had her back during her education, and we were both hyped for her to kick off her career with her fresh qualifications. But as she got settled in at her new gig, I started noticing some shady stuff. She started making new buddies at work, and the first warning signs were her staying out super late, like until 3 in the morning, or crashing at her sister's and not coming home until the next day. I usually trust people, so I didn't dig deeper and just let it go. But then she went on a beach trip out of nowhere, so basically, my girl went on a trip with her new co-workers or whatever she said, but turns out she met some dude at a bar and hooked up with him. She dropped this bomb on me about 2 months ago when she got back from the trip. The next day, she hit me with the "I need a break" and wanted to reconsider our engagement and relationship. I was completely caught off guard because I thought everything was good and had no idea she was even thinking about this. I didn't even know about the cheating at that point. I tried to convince her to stay and work things out, but she wanted to go to therapy, but she was dead set on leaving and staying at her sister's place. Eventually, she came back and said she wanted to work on our relationship and agreed to do couples therapy. About 3 weeks ago, she dropped the bombshell that she's pregnant again. I trust her, so I assumed it's my baby since we've been trying to start a family for a while. I got really excited, started making plans for the baby, and even bought baby books and corner protectors. But then those same warning signs from before started popping up. Man, she wouldn't stop bothering me and my head was spinning. Finally, I got the guts to ask her for a paternity test to see if I'm the dad. I told her I trust her, but I just need to know for sure. She got mad at me for asking and we put it off for a bit. But then last Friday, while we were talking about the baby, I brought it up again. That's when she lost it and confessed that she's been cheating on me. She's totally convinced that the other guy is the father. She even said she had an appointment for termination next. Man, I was totally shook and devastated. I haven't lost my cool yet, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. I promised to drive her to the abortion appointment because it was far and I didn't want her to get sick on the way back. Later, she dropped a bomb on me and admitted she hooked up with some dude she met at the beach. I figured they hooked up again when she was staying at her sister's, but she swears they didn't. I don't really know what to believe. So, apparently, she ran into the guy again and he conveniently left out some important information. He straight up told her he doesn't want anything to do with the baby and recommended she get an abortion. That must have been really hard for her to hear, especially since she's been wanting a baby for a while. And then can you believe he had the nerve to suggest that I raise the child? Like, seriously. I bet they were talking about me behind my back. Who knows, maybe if I hadn't brought up paternity testing, I could have fallen for that trick. But I had no choice but to walk away from that mess. My girlfriend wants to break up and I have to move back in with my parents. She says she still loves me, but I'm crushed and can't see how to make things right. I'm devastated that our life together is falling apart, and on top of that, I lost her dog, who was like my buddy. Now I'm back home with the dog, trying to deal with the mess of a failed relationship. It's tough and I feel lost. I need advice on how to heal and move forward because right now I feel empty and dead inside. Thanks to everyone for their support. Your advice is really coming in clutch and I appreciate it. I've pretty much got 85% of my stuff moved out already, the rest is all packed up in storage. I'll have to arrange a time with my ex-fiancée to sort through it, but once that's done I'll be all moved out. I made sure to grab all my valuables before leaving. The lease was cancelled, but she still had some stuff left so I had to help her get rid of it. Turns out there wasn't as much as I thought. I was thinking about it and we sorted everything out in like 2 hours. After that, I just said bye without any emotion, walked away, and haven't seen her since. The only thing left was the car insurance, which I cancelled and got a new policy for myself. I sent her a text about it, giving her 10 days to find a new policy. I gave her plenty of time to figure it out, but I don't know what she did, and honestly, it's not my problem. I haven't talked to her since I sent that text, and she hasn't tried to get in touch with me at all. I don't really want her to contact me anyway. Actually, I'm kinda glad she hasn't reached out to me. I spoke to the landlord and they said they'll send me info about the fee for ending the lease early and how to pay it. But when I tried to log into their renter's portal online, my account was deactivated, so I can't see anything. The landlord mentioned they already have someone else lined up to rent the place. I'm confused about how this fee is gonna work since they haven't sent me anything yet. I'm starting to wonder if it's related to COVID. I'm still wondering why they haven't hit me with any charges yet. Maybe there's some fine print I missed, but hey, I haven't coughed up any cash yet. Just playing the waiting game for that bill to pop up in my mailbox. I'm guessing they'll eventually send it, but it would be a nice shocker if I didn't have to drop $3,000. Other than that, things are going good surprisingly. I haven't gotten all sappy or shed a tear over her or our breakup. I feel liberated, you know. Been keeping busy hitting up the gym. Between my side hustle and doing what I love whenever I feel like it, I even set up a rock climbing and hiking adventure with one of my best buds who I hardly ever hang out with. It feels so freeing to just do what I want without having to ask anyone, stress about cash, or sync up schedules. I can just live my best life now and it's incredible. Someone commented on my post saying I seem unfazed because deep down I know my future is gonna be awesome. And you know what? I'm starting to believe that more and more every day. It's like I was being held back before, but now I feel liberated and ready to take on everything life has to throw at me. I'm glad to hear you're doing well too. I hope you've left the past in the past and are moving forward with your life. Your ex-fiancée probably only stuck around because you were a stable presence. I bet she was cheating on you with more than just that one guy. You only found out about him because she got pregnant and you demanded a paternity test. It's truly heartbreaking to realize that someone who says they love you can really mess you up. She was okay with you raising a kid that wasn't even yours. Thank God you got that DNA test. I'm happy you were able to break things off with her. You deserve someone way better than her. My wife and I met back in 2008 while we were both traveling. It was like a scene out of a cheesy movie. Our eyes met from across the bar in Madrid and I gathered up the courage to go talk to her. That night we ended up going back to her place together. The next 3 days were filled with passion, fun, and lots of sun. We decided to keep in touch after she went back home and I kept traveling. We started a year-long long-distance relationship before I eventually moved to be with her. During that time, she confessed that she had cheated on a previous boyfriend and felt guilty about it. However, she also thought that her ex breaking up with her was too much for just a kiss. Looking back, I realized she might have been testing my reaction and maybe even cheating on me too. Why I know I can let go of stuff from way back when, like the long-distance issues we had, but what went down last week is a whole other ball game. I straight up told her cheating was a deal breaker for me and I gave her a heads up that if I caught her even flirting with another dude, I would call it quits. Violence and cheating are two things I don't mess around with in a relationship. A year after I moved, we got hitched, and a year later she got pregnant. I was over the moon, but she seemed distant, sad, and anxious during the first 2 months after finding out she was pregnant. She finally admitted that she had a one-night stand around the time she got pregnant. There's a chance the baby might not be mine, and I was crushed. I immediately hopped on a plane back home and ghosted her for a month. I didn't answer any of her messages or calls. But eventually, I caved and we talked. She said she would get a paternity test while the baby was still in utero. If it turned out the baby wasn't mine, she would terminate the pregnancy. But she wanted me to come back before she did anything. So, I made up my mind to go back and she came with me for the test. The results showed that the baby wasn't mine. I told her she had to schedule the appointment to end the pregnancy that day, or I would go see a divorce lawyer. After I left the hospital, she reluctantly booked the appointment for a week later. On the day of the appointment, I drove her there and held her hand. I knew it must have been tough for her, no matter what. She broke down in tears in the car. She was begging me to give it another shot, to try to make things work, or anything really, as long as I didn't go through with the abortion. But I looked her dead in the eyes and told her to do whatever she wanted with her body and her life. I made it clear that I couldn't raise a child that wasn't mine. It would be a constant reminder of her betrayal and I just couldn't handle that. So it was either she gets the abortion or we get a divorce. Just to make it crystal clear, I wanted a divorce right then and there. When she hesitated, I immediately started leaning towards divorce. I never tried to convince her otherwise, I just gave her my advice. She was all like, I don't want to terminate the pregnancy, I want to save our marriage and keep the baby. She straight up told me that she would only terminate if I left, even if the baby was mine. She was dead set on keeping the kid and raising it with me, but that wasn't going to fly. She asked if I would give her another shot if she had the baby, and I said yes because I still had feelings for her. But truth be told, I wasn't down to play dad to a kid that wasn't even mine. In the end, she ended up getting the termination. So, she had some complications and had to be on bed rest for a month. But then, she started acting all distant, unloving, and cold towards me. The spark we had was totally gone. I tried everything to save our relationship, but she didn't seem to care. Then one night, after a few drinks, she admitted that she resented me for making her decide on having an abortion. In the heat of the moment, I lost it and told her she deserved to suffer for what she did. I instantly regretted those words, even though they showed how much she hurt me. So one time I came home early from work and caught her crying on the couch with a dude I knew, who happened to be her coworker. The guilt on their faces was obvious. Turns out he was the father of their secret affair that had been going on for 3 months. I'll never know if that's the whole story, but I stopped asking cause it hurts too much. I filed for divorce and kicked her out immediately. She begged and cried for months, and stupidly I caved and took her back. But I made it clear that she had to quit her shady ways. Me and my girl decided to quit our jobs and cut ties with the other dude. She was on board and made the call right away. We decided to get out of her city and bought a house in my hometown on the other side of the country. We went to marriage counseling and it really helped us out. It took a while, but we became stronger together. We both agreed to be totally honest with each other and accepted that as our new normal. Over time, I stopped being nosy and checking her phone. Our relationship was amazing, our intimacy was on point, and we loved traveling together. We even started talking about colloquial English. Me and my partner have been trying to have kids for 2 years now, but no luck yet. We had a blast trying though. This went on for years and I felt really comfortable and open with her. But then, out of the blue, she started acting a little distant for a few months. I wasn't too worried at first because whenever I asked her about it, she'd reassure me and show me love. But when she was by herself, she'd get quiet and want her own space. One night, she was out partying with her friends and I was at home. I woke up at 4 a.m. and heard her talking downstairs. When I went to check if it was her, she didn't answer. I had a hunch she was on the phone, especially with the late hour, her recent distance, and her shady loyalty in the past. So, I decided to listen in. She was giggling and flirting, saying things like "I miss you too," and "I love you too." I knew it was him, I was sure of it. Then she started talking about the hotel, how amazing the room service was, and when she could see him again. I couldn't handle it anymore. I stormed down the stairs like a raging bull, and she knew she was caught. She just started flipping out on me, screaming and cursing, trying to hide what she'd done. She claimed she had gone to the doctor for an abortion and they found some issue. She was wasted, slurring her words and crying, but in the middle of the mess, she confessed that her uterus was messed up and she probably couldn't have a baby. She found out 3 months ago, around the same time she started distancing herself from me. I grabbed the phone from her and she tried to snatch it back, so we ended up wrestling for it. Me and her were going back and forth until I finally pushed her onto the couch and told her to stay put until I gave the okay. I sat on a chair across from her and went over all the details. There were like 6 text messages from him, asking when she was gonna leave the bar and talking about how much he missed her voice and how much fun they had. Clearly, she had deleted all the other messages, but she hadn't gotten around to erasing the ones from that night yet. I read the messages out loud and she just glared at me, eyes filled with anger. I kept on asking her about it. So, basically, she was trying to justify herself and then suddenly she got all worked up and started shouting again. She was going on about how she took a day off work and drove halfway to meet him, spending the whole day with him in a hotel. She said that when she heard the news from the doctor, she saw me as the enemy and him as her ally. She was screaming that she wasn't sorry and that I had messed up her life. I shouted back that I was glad she got rid of it and if I could, I would make him disappear from her life too. Then she slapped me across the face, so I slapped back. I hit her pretty hard, she fell back on the couch shocked, holding her face and crying. I snatched her phone, threw it against the wall, then went to my room and paced around. She stayed downstairs crying all night until morning when I found her asleep. I woke her up, told her to shower and leave because I had an appointment scheduled. I was with my lawyer to start the divorce process and she couldn't handle being in the house while I was gone. She was crying and begging me not to go through with it. She said she was drunk and didn't mean what she said. She confessed that she lied about meeting someone else just to hurt me and that I was the only one for her. She apologized for hitting me and said she didn't need an apology for me slapping her back because she thought she deserved it. I agreed that she did and told her it was a good thing she wasn't waiting around for me. I'm sorry, but she's not getting an apology. Last week she said she wouldn't, and now she's back living with her parents. She calls me 10 times a day and sends long, teary text messages that I don't even bother reading or replying to. My lawyer told me not to contact her unless it's through him. I'm moving forward with the divorce. Oh, and an important thing I forgot to mention earlier, she told me she doesn't want to raise the baby alone if we divorce, so she's going to go through with it. I told her to get rid of the baby because she didn't want it, but she wanted us to keep it and raise the child of the guy she cheated with. I thought the baby was from a one-night stand she had with her friends, but turns out she wasn't really with her friends. Thank you.